Welcome to Legal Beef. Today we're going to talk about what's been happening in our lives since the last episode, this campaign for State Bar President-elect and some of the different places that the campaign has taken me. While at the same time, my son is getting ready for his wedding and trying to run a ranch and hosting many guests at the lodge.
So since the last time we talked, you've started something new on the legal side of this, and kind of want to start talking about that. Running for State Bar President of Texas?
Yeah, so I am one of the two nominees for President-elect of the State Bar of Texas. The reason why it's President-elect is because it's a 3-year sentence. Whoever is voted in has a 3-year term, right? President-elect, then president, then immediate past president. And the way that works is the State Bar of Texas, which is composed of approximately 118,000 lawyers, all of whom are members of the bar. There is a State Bar Board of Directors, and there is a nominating committee, and the nominating committee chooses who to interview. They'll interview usually between 6 to 10 people that they've selected. And then of those that they interview, they will nominate 2 to run against each other. And so it's subject to board approval, which the State Bar Board approved. They approved my candidacy, as also the other is Sarah Keithley, who is a lawyer from Corsicana, outside the Dallas area. So we officially began the campaign on February the 1st, and it is a 90-day campaign for 3 months. We got to go all over the state of Texas, meet lawyers everywhere we can, as many as we can. We go to a lot of different functions and events and galas and meetings that different bar associations have. There's like over 240 different bar associations. You have local bars, specialty bars, affinity bars. So we get invited to stuff like that. And then we also go to law offices across the state. Could be law firms, could be district attorney offices, places like that. And the idea is just to shake hands and kiss babies, as many as we can. So that's what your dad has been doing for the last few weeks. I missed the first 2 weeks of the campaign because I was in that jury trial that you know about. We'll talk about that in a little bit. It was an exciting jury trial. So I spotted Sarah 2 weeks, gave her a head start, and I'll see if I can catch up.
Well, I still feel like you've been moving pretty well around. I feel like every time I call you, you're either driving, at the airport, getting ready to get on another plane, and just nonstop moving. Seems like.
Yeah, for an old man who's 62 years old, I've gotten around pretty good. It's helped that after I got tapped to run, I got on a health kick. I've lost 31 pounds. I exercise every day, and that has given me the energy and the stamina to keep this going. A lot of planes, trains, and automobiles in my life. I normally move around a lot anyway, between McAllen and Seguin and different areas of the state. But this campaign has been a crazy pace. Just to give you an example and give you folks an example, in the last 48 hours, I have been from Seguin to Houston to Marfa to Presidio to Marathon, Alpine, Lajitas, Terlingua, and back to Seguin, all in 48 hours. Some of that was by plane, some of that was by automobile. Some of it I drove, some of it Elizabeth drove, but we got it all done. Amazing what you can pack into a 24-hour day if you don't sleep.
Yeah. So what's really like the role of the president-elect for the State Bar of Texas?
The president-elect, remember I told you it's a 3-year, I call it a 3-year sentence because it's an unpaid position. It's a volunteer position. We serve the State Bar and all of its lawyers during that time. The president-elect does a lot of learning and supporting the president. And then your year as president, you lead. You're an ambassador for the bar. You have a vision. You have priorities. You try and implement those things. And then, as immediate past president, you're a mentor for the president and the president-elect that come after you. The State Bar of Texas is the premier bar association across the country. Texas is one of those states that is a unified bar or a mandatory bar. That means if you want to practice law in Texas, you must be a member. That's how we have 118,000. There are some states like New York where the bar is voluntary, and they have strong bars as well, but they don't have full participation because not everybody joins. And Texas, our state bar is responsible for the welfare of all of our lawyers. We provide continuing legal education. We provide membership services and benefits. There's so many we could talk about. For example, we have Texas Lawyer Assistance Program for lawyers who have impairment or mental health issues, and sadly, we have a lot of that because of the pressures of what we do. We provide law office management skills and training. We also fund the disciplinary system to protect the clients, the public, and the lawyers whenever there's a complaint against a lawyer. And we do those kinds of things. And we meet a lot.
And then I guess, the direction, if elected, what is the direction you would want to go, and or I guess ideas that you would really want to focus on for the bar?
Well, there's several. Attorney wellness it's a very big priority for me, and the reason why is pretty personal. I can count 11 of my colleagues, friends, and 2 of them are very, very close friends who have actually taken their lives. Suicide rates among lawyers is disproportionately high. And to be able to count 11 colleagues is astounding. 2 of those were very close friends whom I was called upon to have to wind up their law practice and help wind up their estates. And so I've seen firsthand the tragedy that befalls a family and all of their clients when something like that happens. And so attorney wellness is something that, in the past, when I first started practicing law in 1988, nobody wanted to talk about mental health issues with lawyers because if we were to ever admit that we had a problem, then we're weak and our clients would leave us and judges and colleagues would look down on us. That was the fear. So Texas started the Texas Lawyers Assistance Program to provide assistance for lawyers who had substance abuse and alcohol problems. And that's how it first got started. And that was good, and that's great. But there's more to it than substance abuse. There's more to it than alcoholism. There's burnout, there's depression, there's anxiety. There's a lot of pressure, especially our young lawyers who have a lot of financial pressures. They might be taking out a lot of student loans that they're having trouble repaying. They may not have a mentor support system. They may have to hang out their own shingle and try and develop a business. That when you go to law school, they don't teach you how to run a business. They don't teach you how to start a business. They don't teach you anything about that side of the business. So you got young lawyers who are hanging out their shingle and they're broke and saddled with a lot of student debt. And then you have others that have too much work. And so they're overstressed, overworked, having trouble balancing, their personal needs, their physical and emotional and spiritual needs with the demands from work, the demands from family. So there's a lot of that going on. So the bar has gotten better about talking about those issues. And we're providing some relief for that. But what I don't hear being talked about, and this is what I want to focus on my year, is getting to the root cause. The root cause. What is causing lawyer burnout? What is causing dissatisfaction among the lawyers who are working and they're just unhappy with what they're doing? We need to get to the root cause, I think, in order to minimize the problem that we have in our profession. And I personally believe that part of it is because we've lost focus on what it is lawyers do. Why did we go to law school in the first place? And hopefully it was for the right reason. Hopefully it was to want to make a difference in the lives of others. Hopefully it was for a purpose that's larger than ourselves. And if we can recover that, I think we feel better about getting up and working hard than when it's all about me. Once the practice of law becomes about me, about I'm doing this for the money, I need more money, and for selfish reasons, then I think that's when the problem starts, because we're never satisfied. It doesn't matter how much money we have. If that's what the focus is, it's never enough. I want more, I can't get it, I gotta work more, I gotta work longer, I need better cases, and it's never enough. And so when we remember that the law practice is supposed to be a noble profession, and that we're here to help others, then we're really helping others, then we can feel better about the work that we do. The practice of law, in my mind, it comes down to, there's two kind of lawyers. You got a lawyer who says, my law license is a right. I have a right to practice law. I have a right to make money. I have a right to do things. It becomes self-centered. But if we view the practice of law as a privilege, my law license is a privilege. Privilege comes with a responsibility, and that responsibility is to serve. And then it just orients us better. And I think that when we recover that, we're going to be addressing some root cause issues that will help minimize early lawyer burnout and dissatisfaction.
Well, I remember before I decided to do ranching, but what you just said about, it's a noble profession and it's about making a difference in other people's lives. It was growing up and seeing, getting to work with you during the summers, and then, hearing the stories that you would say of, wins and losses. It was very motivating, and it was one of the main reasons why I'd wanted to go to law school in the first place. Different path now, but I never, still in the back of my mind, but I want to give this 100%.
Yeah. I don't think we talked about how you ended up not following in my footsteps in the first podcast, did we? We didn't talk about that?
I don't think so.
So that's probably a good topic for here. But before we do that, I'm going to recall a time I think you were in 8th grade, and you came to the office, and I was working on a case. I'm a trial lawyer. Back in that time frame, I was doing more complex commercial cases. And you walked into the conference room at the office, and it was just full of boxes. I mean, just boxes, probably 2-3 feet deep, full of paper and notebooks. And you walked in and you were like aghast. You were like, oh my God, what is that? You remember that? And I said, I said, well, that's the paperwork for this case that I'm getting ready for. I'm getting ready to go to trial. And you're like, you got to read all that? I said, yeah, I got to not only read all that, I have to read it many times. I have to study it. I have to index it. I have to know it. I have to manage it. And you're like, I don't ever want to be a lawyer. You probably chose the wiser path. But you went to TCU. You got your degree in communications. You were on your way towards law school. You studied and sat for the LSAT.
Yeah, so I taken the LSAT multiple times, but it was when It was during COVID, so it was online. And the way it worked then was you would connect with a program called ProctorU, and essentially you have someone watching you the entire time that you're taking the test, just to make sure you're not cheating or anything like that. And since it's a third party and you have to connect to it, the couple times that I took it, I would have trouble connecting and I would disconnect in the middle of the test. And the timer would still be going, but I wasn't allowed to continue because I had disconnected. So I would have to manually reconnect again to the proctor and wait until do the whole steps all over again of checking around, make sure I don't have anything. And that happened multiple times to a point where the 2 times that I took it, that was on when it was like that, I lost about an hour of the test. And I mean, I felt like it's not like a real good representation of what I could do. And by this point, I had my application submitted to all the law schools in Texas already. And that summer, I was going to intern at a law firm in Dallas with Lynn Peaker, Hurst, and Schwarm.
Yeah, Michael Hurst firm.
Yeah, Michael Hurst firm. To really see if it was going to be something that I really, really wanted to do, because it's different when, you're working for your dad and you can get away with some stuff. But really wanted to see if it, in that type of environment, if I was really going to like it. But that summer I studied, would show up to the office early. I would study, then work, and then stay late and study. Didn't have a social life because I knew at the end I was getting ready to take the LSAT, and that was going to be the one that I was going to use for my applications. I decided to come to Seguin to take it because I knew that the internet at the house was the same one that you have at the office. So if it's good for the office, then it has to be good for me. And so I drove down here, and when I tried to connect, it told me that there was like a security thing or a security problem, and that the internet provider was blocking me from connecting to the proctor. And the only way to fix that was I had to call the internet company so they could take it off, but it was on a Saturday and I had to take the test. And so that didn't work. I tried going to the man cave thinking it was a different Wi-Fi, and same thing. I was like, well, there's one more spot that I could come check. So I raced here to the ranch and tried connecting, and the connection wasn't strong enough. And at this point, I even tried my hotspot on my phone, and I'd lost 2 hours there. And I remember calling you and saying, it really broke me, because I was, felt like I'd wasted 3 months studying, and then I wasn't able to.
It was a sign from God, you thought it was.
Well,
you were supposed to go to law school.
I remember calling you and, apologizing, crying, saying I was like, 'cause I really thought I had, disappointed. I don't know. It just felt like I had failed, right? Not being able to take it. And I'll never forget what you told me. You said you can look at it both 2 ways. You can say, maybe it's God telling you that law school isn't for you, or it's telling you that, it's just showing you how hard you're going to have to work. And and you told me, I think it's the latter. I think it's God telling you that law school is not for you right now. Hadn't made a decision there yet. Was still thinking about it, praying about it. And then on our father-son hunting trip, when I had decided, I really wanted to do something with the ranch and really see where it can go.
Yeah, you did work at the Lynn Pinker firm for a summer, didn't you? Part of a summer?
Yeah. So I remember you thought that it was going to make me hate law school, or make me hate being a lawyer. But on the other hand, I made the decision a lot more difficult. I absolutely loved it there.
Yeah. Well, you're very fortunate that Michael Hurst, who's a very dear personal friend, invited you to work there. They are one of the absolute premier law firms, boutique law firms, trial firms in the state of Texas and even in the country. They do some really high-end, complex commercial cases. And so you are around some of the finest lawyers and support staff that you could possibly be. So I knew I was like, man, if you can go there and you're going to find out whether you like it or not. There's a lot of paperwork involved in complex commercial litigation, and so you sink or swim. And It turns out you swam. Every time I go back out during the campaign, I went back there. I was just there a few weeks ago, and all they could do, they didn't want to talk about me, or they didn't want to talk about my priorities, or they didn't want to talk about anything other than, how's your son? How's Ray Ray? How's, They wanted to know if you were like really going to get married or you were still available. That was a great summer. I'm glad you had a chance to live in Dallas and work with a fantastic law firm. So we go on a father-son celebratory trip, a hunting trip to the T.O. Ranch in northern New Mexico with Michael Guerra and his son Matthew Guerra, who also had graduated from law school or was graduating from law school, was going to go to work for the Nix law firm. That was a spectacular hunt, a spectacular place. One of those lifetime memories for me.
Me too. It was just beautiful views, beautiful company, and a life-changing decision was made on that trip. So it would be really, really hard to forget.
240,000 acres is how much the T.O. Ranch, is how big the T.O. Ranch is. Man, this is as far as you could see on those mountaintops.
Yeah.
And we talk about the hunt. We were hunting pronghorn antelope, which is the second fastest animal on the planet. And we got to see them run, didn't we?
We did.
These pronghorns, which are also seen in Alpine, where I was born, Presidio, where I was raised. I've always seen these pronghorns driving through there. Never had an opportunity to harvest one or hunt one. Didn't realize how difficult they are to hunt. Unlike other animals that hide to protect themselves, they stand out in the open, in the middle of a field. And the reason why is because they can see you from so far away and you'll never get close to them. They can run, and they run fast. So you really got to sneak up on those guys. One night during that hunt, it was after midnight, you and I are smoking a cigar, sharing a whiskey, and that's when you kind of you got the courage to tell me that you didn't want to go to law school. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I was very, very nervous to bring up the conversation. While I was trying to make the decision, I kept trying to ask you, for advice, and you would never give it.
But why?
In the moment, you didn't tell me, and I never understood it until after I told you my decision, and you finally told me was because you didn't want to influence the decision I made with what I wanted to do. And
it's your dream, not mine.
You wanted me to forge my own path, and I understood why.
So what made you tell me that night?
I guess it was just, the two of us, and I hadn't told Mom yet. And it felt like the right time. I was still in school, so I didn't know when the next time I was going to see you again. And I was kind of getting to the point where it was already in the fall and was supposed to start hearing back. And
shit or get off the pot time.
Yeah, pretty much. And I was getting ready to graduate, so I had to figure out, or I had to make a decision. Couldn't just, sit around and wait. But yeah, I was super nervous. I didn't know how you were going to react. I tried to speak from the heart and, tell you how I felt and what I wanted to do, and was hoping you would accept it.
I did. I recall you telling me you didn't want to go to law school, and I told you I wasn't surprised, and obviously I was not disappointed. It's nothing I ever pressured you to do. I do remember telling you that once I was sure you had made up your mind, and you were certain about that, you gave me that assurance. I said, okay, now I'll tell you what was in my heart. And in my heart, I was actually glad that you made that decision not to go to law school, because I was wanting to slow down my practice and if you were going to go to law school and come back and work with me, I was going to have to keep it going for another 10, 15 years. And I didn't know if I had that much left in me, in the tank. And I said, but by deciding not to go to law school, maybe I can wind this up a little sooner and, hang out more at the ranch. And your response was, I'll never forget it. You said, wow. He said, really, the only reason I wanted to go to law school was because I seen you busting your butt all your life, and I wanted to come and relieve you, and so that you could spend more time at the ranch. And I thought, well, there you go. We're going to get a chance to work together, but instead of practicing law, at the ranch. I also remember asking you, well, if you don't want to go to law school, what do you want to do? And you said you wanted to make a go at the ranch. And inside, I never told you this. I said, oh shit, it's really hard to make a living on a ranch. Ranches are a lot of fun. They're very expensive. They're much like a hobby. And in order to make a sustained living on a ranch, I told you it's really hard. The difference is what I do is air conditioned, and what you do on the ranch, you ain't got no air conditioning. You figured that out now.
Yeah, I have. But I mean, it was very rewarding, I guess, the work. It is just such a beautiful place, and getting to share it with people and getting to see the reactions when they come, it makes it all worth it. So we just wanted to say thank you for listening to the Legal Beef podcast. Find us wherever you listen to your favorite one. Please subscribe, and we'll be sure to look out for you in the next one.